Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Olya, and I lead developer experience at Rootstock Labs. Rootstock is the first and longest running Bitcoin sidechain. What makes Rootstock special is that it is fully EVM compatible. So, as a developer, you can enjoy the extensive EVM compatible toolchain. We've created this particular series to walk you through some of the tools and integrations that we have that will make your life easier and so that you are fully equipped building on Bitcoin with Rootstock. Today we have Rohit from Reown, a fab project, and I'm very excited to have you here, Rohit. And we'll be talking about, well, Web3 UX, and I guess the project Reown itself, WalletConnect, and the AppKit. So, without any further ado, Rohit, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me here, Olia. So, hey everyone, my name is Rohit. I lead the developer relations team at Reown. I think most people remember Reown as its former name, which is WalletConnect, because you sort of see it everywhere, but regardless of whether it's a wallet or it's an app. I think it sort of created this medium for people to make good connections with apps using their existing wallets without having to implement X, Y, and Z wallet or integrate.
Actually, as you're doing it, Rohit, could you also tell us a little bit about yourself? How and when you joined the project, how you got into Web3, and do you think there's a UX problem for users? Is that kind of what you believe in, or is it just interest in tech? Give us a bit of a background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in Web3 for a little over 4 years. It feels like I've been in here forever, even though 4 years seems quite a short period in traditional companies or just fintech or Web2. In Web3, it feels like 10 years. But I joined Wallet Connect when people knew it through its former name about 8 to 9 months ago. So I think that was back in August 2024. That's when we were deciding on this whole rebranding to Reown and the split between WalletConnect Foundation, which is going to be the network, and then Reown, which will be the product company built on top of the WalletConnect network, providing SDKs for both wallets and applications. Um, and to answer your question, if I think Web3 UX is bad or usable right now, I think it's always been pretty problematic. Of course, it is getting better with time, but I still have a very hard time using Web3 applications or wallets in general, mainly because I think we make a large assumption that the user who's using it sort of has the required knowledge or experience to get accustomed to your product and start using it right away. I think this is a very grave mistake to make, and that's where most people sort of drop off or never end up returning. So I think the UX needs to cater to what people's regular mental model is. For example, everybody knows how to use a smartphone because it has been around for 15 years now. If you reinvent the wheel with a different model, then you sort of need to guide users and hold their hands to understand what is the difference and how they can get around it. We sort of don't do this. We assume that people know how things will work, and I think that's the issue that we have. So to simplify this, UX should just be very logical and intuitive. If it's not intuitive, then you have a problem to solve.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And every conference we keep on talking about this, but it's really good, like to see steps actually being taken to improve that and see. And yeah, good analogy there also with the smartphone. And actually, it's only 15 years. Remember, there were like some person I was watching a documentary when they were saying comparing it to BlackBerry and like what touch screen that's never gonna pick up and like yeah look at us. I guess it also needs to be exciting for the user to actually try and put some effort into simple and also like an exciting space. It's got to be something there. But anyways, let me pass it back to you. Let's have a look at your little intro.
Sounds good. So yeah, this workshop is going to be fairly straightforward. I don't want people to think that I'm going to pull up my code editor and ask people to follow me one by one, which is not going to happen. So this is just going to be a high level workshop on how anybody can build on Reown AppKit. So AppKit is an SDK that we have, which mainly caters to applications in Web3. So if you're an app that needs people to connect their wallets or just provide social login to proceed with the rest of the interaction that your app has on their way to this user base, then you can sort of facilitate that with Reown AppKit SDK. So why exactly do we need AppKit? Like I mentioned, in Web3, you have many different type of users. I don't think this is a Web3 specific problem. It exists in every industry. Different users want to do different things. Different users have different preferences. As these preferences evolve, users also have different wallets that they prefer as their first preference when it comes to interacting with Web3, blockchain, or just Web3 applications in general. So if I use MetaMask, I think I shouldn't really assume that everybody else will use MetaMask, even though, of course, it's one of the most commonly used wallets. But the issue is earlier on, I'm not sure if you remember when people or web projects wanted to integrate wallet interactions or connections in their application, they had to piece together each provider one by one. So if they want to facilitate connections through MetaMask, they have to use an injected provider to make MetaMask compatible with their Web3 application. And they have to do this with 5 more wallets that they wish to support. But Reown AppKit sort of erases the need to do this by having 500 different ecosystem wallets all within a single model. That means project developers can simply focus on building their app rather than worrying about which wallet to get, which user would probably use, which user in which demographic would use which wallet. So you don't really need to worry about any of this. You don't really need to worry about maintenance. You sort of understand your users and you meet your users where they're at. So you have 500 different wallets that are supported through WalletConnect network. If you don't want your users to have a traditional Web3 experience, you could still have account abstraction enabled using social logins. So people can use their Google account, Discord Forecaster, or any of the other 5 methods that we support. So it's super straightforward to use AppKit. I'm gonna move on to the next slide. So, like I mentioned, I think having this model already reduces the friction that people go through when they're getting onboarded into an application. And this goes mutually for both a project and an end user. So on the right, I think you can see a simple screenshot, which is what the model or the user experience flow would look like when you click on Connect Wallet. So on top, you have email, and then you have other social login methods. Then you have WalletConnect. So if you're on your mobile, people can click on this, scan the QR code, and instantly connect with your application. And then you also have all wallets. So this will be a consolidated list of 400 to 500 wallets that are supported with the network that you have configured for your application. The best part is you don't really need to worry about supporting the latest standards because the SDK sort of takes care of this on behalf of you. So if let's say there's a new EIP coming out tomorrow, you don't need to worry about integrating this yourself because AppKit will sort of do this for you because our team is always on top of this. And then you can also be across multiple platforms. So you can basically target your application to reach 500 different wallets and the user base that these wallets may bring on. So let's look at the next slide. I already touched up on social logins. I think people may be wondering, with social login, you have its fair share of complication, which is it's not necessarily a fully non-custodial account. It's a custodial account created in the beginning, but the best part is you can go through the upgrade wallet flow to fully get custody of your private key, which means you're transitioning to a self-custodial wallet. So let's say if I use my Gmail account to sign up on an app that's using AppKit, initially you don't really have control over your private key because since account abstraction's goal is to create a wallet address on the go on the backend and give it to you right away for you to use it, you don't really have this present right away to make sure people are not bombarded with information that they don't need. But if you realize that, okay, you can fully make this non-custodial, you can go through the EOA flow to get custody of your private key. So that's a good thing that people have in case projects are wondering. And within the AppKit model, there are 2 features that are built in or enabled by default, which is on-ramp and swaps. So the perfect scenario where this could be applicable is if, let's say, I'm an application built on Rootstock, but my users only have Ethereum on base. The issue is now they need to leave your application, somehow bridge the tokens to Rootstock, either into RBTC or RIF tokens, and only then they will be able to interact with your application. But with AppKit model, they don't really need to do this because within the wallet connection model, you have on-ramp and swaps enabled. So if they don't have RIF or RBTC tokens, they can simply use their card or Apple Pay or Google Pay to on-ramp tokens into their wallet, or they can swap using existing tokens, which means as a project, you're giving them the option to never have to leave your application and do everything that is required to interact with your application from the same app. And as a project or as a developer or as a company, you sort of get to see detailed analytics on where these connections are coming from, how are people interacting with your application, what sort of user demographic are you seeing, which country do you have the largest user base in, and then based on this analytics, you can make data-driven decisions as a company or as a product. So the analytics feature is probably one of the most powerful and underrated features that I would like to show. I personally love using this because it just helps me understand how projects are functioning in general. And the best part is AppKit supports multiple accounts, which means you could have 3 or 4 accounts connected to the AppKit model at the same time and switch between them seamlessly. And for projects who wish to customize this is fully customizable. So you could have your own theme, have your own accent, have your own font, anything that you wish to do, you can do that. The other thing is one-click auth, which is also known as sign-in with Ethereum. So traditionally, applications sort of needed to request a connection. So users first had to click on Connect Wallet using their wallet extension or their mobile wallet application. And then they needed to sign a message to prove ownership of this wallet. So this was done 2 different steps, but signing with Ethereum, you sort of combine these things in one simple step, which is one-click auth. So you're basically connecting and signing a message to prove that you own the wallet in a single step. And then token balances. So if you're connecting a wallet to an application, it automatically fetches how much tokens you have in that particular wallet. And the same goes for transaction history. So if you want to see how you've been interacting with the application or just in that particular chain in general, you can still see that, which is enabled by default as well. So there are a couple of more cool features that AppKit supports, which is gas sponsorship. So if you're an application or a Web3 game, and let's say you expect your users to do 20 interactions on chain using your game within a second or within a minute, you don't really expect them to sign a transaction or give a confirmation every now and then. And you can sort of abstract all this away by sponsoring their gas fee, which means as an end user, they don't really need to worry about having funds in their wallet to make interactions with your application. And the same goes for Token Paymaster. And you can use the same gaming example for Smart Session. I remember there was this meme floating around where a developer pointed out how Web3 gaming experience would look like. So every time he clicks his mouse with his character on the game, it opens up MetaMask. You had to sign a message, click confirm transaction. You sort of escape the need to have your ask your users to do this using smart sessions, which means you can give access or authentication to that particular smart contract or that particular application for a given period of time. So let's say you want all of your transactions to go through without your approval in a 60 minutes time period for that particular application. You can do so by smart session. And as a user, if you're worried about risks or security, you can always go back and revoke those whenever you want to. And of course, they can only, like, smart sessions can only function or act on your behalf on that particular application or smart contract that you've given it access to. So that's a good feature if people are building a Web3 game or just a good application that needs a lot of interaction from the users, but they don't want to make this painful.
Yeah, that's super interesting, actually. And I'm assuming you can also go back, obviously, and review all the transactions that actually happened that you pre-approved.
Exactly, yeah, that's correct. And of course, if you're worried about like security issues, you can always revoke it from the
Yeah.
dashboard, so it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, no, it is. I could say it's definitely very useful, but it might be a little bit. Yeah, I can imagine if you're doing it for the first time, I'd be a bit nervous. It's like, what? My transaction is getting signed
Yeah,
without me seeing it? But no, oh, fair enough.
yeah, absolutely. Just a few other things that I would like to mention is so AppKit, of course, supports all EVM compatible networks. So Rootstock again is an EVM compatible network, which means it's supported out of the box and developers don't need to do anything to make this work. And the same goes for Solana and Bitcoin. So which means if you're a project who wishes to have 5 different EVM chains, Solana and Bitcoin, all within the same model, you can do so just by using AppKit, which means you don't need to piece together each provider for each different ecosystem. So it's one AppKit model and you can handle multiple networks. So that's a good use case if people are looking to go multi-chain. So this is a QR code that I can have up on screen in case people want to scan this and go try it out themselves. But in a minute, I can switch to a different tab and walk you through the demo. So here you have options to control the authentication flow, which means if you don't wish to have the wallet connection option, you could sort of enforce them to log in using social logins. Again, if you want to have a very native Web2 experience, you could sort of use those and the whole experience gets abstracted away for the end users. And if you think that there's too many walls that people are being bombarded by, you could sort of collapse that, so which means users can choose what they want and then proceed. And the same goes for networks. So I'm just gonna disable Solana and Bitcoin for now because it's not really needed. So here you can select Ethereum, which means EVM compatible chains will be supported. And the same goes for features. So, but like I mentioned, on-ramp and swap would be enabled by default, but you can also include other features if you wish to do so. So now I can click on continue with wallets. When I click on MetaMask, it's gonna open a pop-up. I suppose you won't be able to see this pop-up, but once I click on connect, the connection should go through instantly. And here you see there's an option to buy crypto, swap crypto, and tokens to a different wallet, and also see transaction history. So this is a quick demo of what AppKit looks like. Of course, you can customize this however you want. So if you click on design, you could make it light if you want. You could change the font. Of course, there's only 6 options, but you could essentially use any font that Google supports. And the same goes for accent color and background color. So that's everything for the demo. I'm gonna switch back to my presentation. So yeah, this is where I wish to walk everyone through integrating AppKit in less than 2 minutes. So there's a QR code on the right if people wish to see a video tutorial at their own convenience. You can just scan this, it'll take you to a Twitter post, and then you can refer to that. But apart from that, there are a few simple steps that you can follow to do this. One is you can open your command terminal, run this command, which is npx at reown/appkit CLI. When you do this, the CLI will sort of prompt you to pick the library or language of your choice. So if you're a Next developer, you can pick Next. And then it'll also ask if you want to work with EVM networks, Solana, Bitcoin, or a multi-chain configuration. After you pick that, all you need to do is install the dependencies by running npm run install. Then you can import the Rootstock network. And once you run the project locally, it'll spin up a simple demo of AppKit with Rootstock configured. So you can do all this in, I would say, less than 2 minutes if your internet speed is pretty fast. So let's try it out. I'm going to open my code editor and show you guys how to do this. I'm going to stop sharing and switch to my code editor. Can you see my code editor? Awesome. So like I mentioned, all you need to do is run npx at the rate reown/appkit CLI. Once you do this, it's going to take a minute to load, but then after that, you can enter the project name. So I can put Rootstock Workshop. I'm going to actually increase the font size so it's easy for the recording. And here you can pick the framework that you wish to use. So I'm going to go with Next because I'm a Next guy. And here you can sort of pick and choose which libraries you wish to use. So WalkMe and Ethos are the most commonly used Ethereum-focused libraries, but you also have Solana, Bitcoin, and multi-chain. So for now, I'm just gonna pick WalkMe and move on. So it's gonna clone a repository, and you can see it's already done. So all I need to do is move into, 1 second. Yeah, move into the directory that was created, which is Rootstock Workshop. Oh, 1 second, I missed the T. And now I need to install the dependencies. So I can simply run npm install. So this can take about 2 minutes depending on which sort of configuration you use. So if you use a multi-chain configuration, it has more dependencies to download and set up. Maybe Risa can skip this part because it's going to take a minute or two.
Let's go.
Okay, so now that all the dependencies have been installed, I can open this directory. Awesome. So this is the project that was cloned, and within SRC is where you have your app components. So you have page.tsx, which is going to be acting as your front end. You have config and context, which is how you sort of separate your project files and next. So if you go into context, you have an index.tsx file. Here you can see that it is passing adapters. Like I mentioned, it's going to be WalkMe in our case, but you'll already see that the networks has been configured and the networks are being imported from the config folder, which is index.tsx. Here you can simply import Rootstock, and I'm going to import Rootstock testnet as well, and I'm going to do the same below. So now that you have these networks configured, all you need to do is run the project locally. So I'm going to open my terminal and run npm run dev. So when I do this, it'll spin up an instance of AppKit running on Rootstock locally. So let me open this link, and I can probably switch back to my browser. Can you see my new screen? So this is a simple demo, and here already asks me to connect or switch to a network. So I'm going to switch to Rootstock mainnet, and let's try connecting our wallet. I doubt you can see my MetaMask extension, but I'm clicking on connect now.
We
And
can
once
actually.
you can? Okay, awesome. So yeah, once the connection goes through, you can see that I'm now connected to Rootstock, and the native token is RBTC. You can either on-ramp, swap, send tokens, and you can see transaction history. So this is a
Amazing.
very simple demo of how you can integrate AppKit. I think that took less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well done.
And here you have these buttons to sort of explain developers how you can open the module using a function call, disconnect your wallet. If you click on switch network, it'll switch to either the testnet or Ethereum mainnet. And the same for disconnect. So that's how easy it is to set up AppKit and integrate Rootstock. I'm gonna switch to a different tab. It's docs.reown.com. Should be fairly straightforward. So for anybody who wants to understand about AppKit or Reown or WalletKit, you could go to our documentation and learn more about it.
All right. And you've got some socials here. This is also how to get in touch, right?
Yeah, so if anybody's building a project on AppKit or just has questions integrating Root or anything else, they can reach out to me on my Twitter or Telegram.
X. I like how you use Twitter still. Right. Yeah. Thank you. I've got a couple of questions for you. Thanks for the demo. It does look super easy. We do love CLI, obviously. But if somebody was to not use the CLI but actually follow the docs, do you have any quick start tutorials? Is the docs the best place for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just recently made a change that I would like to flex on. So we have three different options. So if you don't want to use the CLI and you're building an app with AI, I think this is going to be the most straightforward option. So you go to the homepage, click on build a Web3 app with AI, and you have a proper instruction set here to learn or understand how you can integrate Reown AppKit using your AI-based IDE in less than a few minutes. So if you're using Cursor, all you need to do is follow these instructions and you can set up an AppKit project in less than 5 minutes. But if you don't wish to do this and you wish to integrate everything yourself, then you can spend a lot of time implementing or importing each package one by one, referring to the code snippets here, and getting started. So it should be fairly straightforward. Apart from that, we also have a dedicated guides section. So if you go to the homepage, we have AppKit guides. So if you're building a Telegram mini app, you have a dedicated guide for that. the same for multiple other options that we have here.
I also have a question about the actual project. Is everything open source, and do you accept contributions from the community?
So yeah, I think WalletConnect has always been open source. Reown AppKit or WalletKit right now is also open source, so you can see the complete repository on our GitHub. So if anybody needs to make, let's say, any changes or if they spot issues in general, you could either create an issue or you can make PRs or contributions yourself. And then the team will review it, see if everything is in place, and then approve and merge it.
Great, nice, thank you. And my final question to you will be about is there an alpha you want to drop? Anything coming? What can we expect? Anything that you think will excite the community on your roadmap?
So I think the next big thing on the roadmap is, of course, going to be payments. So if you're an application who wants to accept crypto payments, we'll have a dedicated integration within the AppKit SDK for you to allow crypto payments. And then, of course, chain abstraction. So let's say you have tokens on Rootstock, but you want to interact with an application on Ethereum mainnet. Without bridging these tokens, you could interact with it using the chain abstraction feature of AppKit. And then the final alpha would be support for Polkadot, Sui, and Cosmos coming soon.
Nice. Yeah, I love interchain everything. And yeah, I feel like payments is a huge use case. I've got like tons of ideas straight away that like come to mind for. Are there any hackathons or any events upcoming this year that you'll be participating where developers can come and try building with the tech?
Of course, I think the next big one would probably be the ETH Global Hackathon in Buenos Aires. I'm pretty sure Ruth's team will probably be there as well.
Yeah, it's our home,
I think
Buenos Aires.
yeah, so it's probably the big hackathon that we have in the roadmap. We are also going to be at Solana Accelerate in New York next month, but that's more of a conference, not a hackathon.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for sharing. And we'll definitely be in Buenos Aires. So here's an opportunity to build something with Reown and Rootstock. I'm sure we'll be sharing more content before that. But yeah, Rohit, thanks so much for coming today. It was really interesting. It really does just take a couple of minutes. I love that all the demos really worked well. So yeah, all in all, great session. Thanks again for coming, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Alia. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.